Today, we're undertaking a deep dive into an artist whose career, well, it really defies easy categorization. We're looking at Joseph Arthur. He's an American singer-songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist, and also a visual artist, originally from Akron, Ohio, born back in September 1971.
Yeah, and what makes it so interesting, I think, is just the sheer volume, the relentless productivity. We've got sources here covering almost, what, 4 decades, from 87 right up to now. And it's not a straight line, is it? It's more like these bursts of intense creativity across music, poetry, painting.
Exactly. And our sources really map out this unique path he took, starting as this young musician in Ohio, then developing that signature solo looping style, collaborating in some really major supergroups, which we'll get into, and then, well, navigating some very personal, very challenging professional turns more recently.
Right. And our goal here today, for you, the learner, is really to pull all that together. We want to find that thread, the thing that connects all these different musical styles he's worked in: alt-rock, folk rock, indie folk, even touches of world music with his really extensive visual art. It really boils down to a study of this deep artistic commitment, meeting this kind of radical independence, and how those two things just shaped his whole professional life.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. How did he even get into music?
Well, the spark came pretty early in his teens. He inherited an electronic keyboard. But the fascinating part, looking at the sources, is where he thought he was going initially.
Right. It wasn't singer-songwriter straight away.
Not at all. He apparently dreamed of being a, quote, heroic bass player.
The heroic bass player, okay.
Yeah. And he cited some heavy hitters: Jaco Pastorius, the jazz fusion legend, and Miles Davis's Bitches Brew. He was even playing bass in a blues band, Frankie Steamer and the Chill Factor, up until about 95.
Wow, Jaco Pastorius. That's aiming high, technically speaking.
Absolutely. That tells you something, doesn't it? Aiming for Jaco means you're focused on, like, the absolute peak of technical skill.
Yeah.
Suggests he was initially drawn to complexity, maybe structure, more than just raw emotion.
So what changed? How did he pivot to acoustic guitar and songwriting?
Well, the sources point to a really key moment in his early 20s. He got hit by two things: Nirvana, which was all about that visceral, raw simplicity.
Okay.
And then, as he put it, he got into Bob Dylan. And that was kind of the turning point. He realized, maybe he could write songs if he wasn't constantly chasing these incredibly complex instrumental parts.
So the focus shifted from technical wizardry to expression.
Exactly. That switch from fusion complexity to folk rock vulnerability, it really sets the stage for the kind of angsty, emotional songwriting that became his trademark later on.
So after high school, Firestone High in 1990, he moved, leaves Ohio.
Yeah, big move down to Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And he did the classic musician grind down there, worked selling guitars at Clark Music Store, recorded demos at home, played the local clubs, really putting in the hours.
And that's where the big break happens, the Peter Gabriel connection.
That's it. This is 1996. Crucial moment. Peter Gabriel's A&R guy, Harvey Schwartz, gets hold of a demo Arthur made, the Cut and Blind EP.
And connecting with Peter Gabriel, that's huge. Gabriel wasn't just rock, he was exploring world music, setting up platforms for unique artists.
Precisely. And this demo leads to this audition, a live audition at the Fez nightclub in New York City. Apparently a pretty high-pressure gig.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the sources even mentioned Lou Reed was in the audience that night.
Wow, Lou Reed, okay.
So he nails the audition, and pretty soon after, he's signed to Peter Gabriel's label, Real World. And this was a big deal because he was the first North American artist they signed.
A first one. So Real World wasn't just any label. It was this curated global thing.
Exactly. It put him on the international map almost immediately. Huge endorsement.
And that led straight into recording his first album.
Yep. Big City Secrets. Recorded at Gabriel's own Real World studios over in England. And he worked with Marcus Dravs as producer.
Marcus Dravs. Okay, he's worked with Bjork, Coldplay, Arcade Fire. Big names.
Definitely a top-tier producer. The album comes out in spring '97. Arthur himself described the sound as someone struggling to heal over experimental folk rock.
Struggling to heal. Okay, so intense emotional lyrics, diverse instruments.
Very much so. But here's the catch, according to the sources. Despite the pedigree, the album went virtually unnoticed by the mainstream.
Huh. So even with Gabriel's backing and a great producer, it didn't break through commercially.
Not initially, no.
Yeah.
It's kind of an early sign of this tension we see throughout his career between, critical respect and mainstream visibility. After the album, he did get valuable experience touring Europe on Gabriel's WOMAD circuit.
And we already see the visual art side emerging here, too.
Absolutely. That 1999 EP, Vacancy, he worked with Zachary Larner on the design for the sleeve. And that visual work actually got a Grammy nomination.
The Grammy nod
Yeah.
for the packaging.
Yep, Best Recording Package in 2000. It's the first big signal that, for Arthur, the visual art isn't just a hobby, it's completely woven into who he is as an artist. And it got recognized at the highest level very early on. Okay, so moving into the 2000s, it seems like Arthur consciously tried to maybe broaden his appeal a bit, critically at least. His second album, Come to Where I'm From, came out in April 2000. And look who he brought in to co-produce. T-Bone Burnett and Chad Blake.
T-Bone Burnett. Okay, that's significant. He's known for that polished root sound, like the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack, taking folk, blues, making it accessible but still deep.
Exactly. And working with Burnett and Blake definitely resulted in what the sources call a more polished and accessible sound compared to the debut. And it worked, critically speaking.
How so?
Well, it got positive reviews from places like Pitchfork, Entertainment Weekly, important case makers. And this helped him start playing to bigger crowds, opening for acts like Ben Harper and Gomez.
So, gaining some momentum, but then he does something interesting with his output, right? The Junkyard Hearts EPs.
Yeah, this is classic Arthur, I think. Early 2002, he drops this series of 4 EPs, Junkyard Hearts, Sir 2, 3, and 4. But here's the twist. You could only buy them at his live shows.
Only at the gigs. Wow, so no record stores, no online sales back then?
Nope. Think about that strategy. This is way before Bandcamp made that easy. He's making this music exclusive to the people who show up, prioritizing that direct fan connection, creating scarcity. It's like he's already bypassing the traditional system that maybe struggled with his first album.
That's a really early sign of that independent streak, wanting to control how his music gets out there.
Totally.
Yeah.
But even with this growing critical buzz, the major label issues didn't just disappear. His third album, Redemption Son from 2002.
Yeah, what happened there? It continued those themes of emotional searching.
It did, but it hit a major distribution problem. It came out in the UK first because EMI actually dropped him in North America.
Dropped him after the positive reviews for the last one.
Yep. He eventually got picked up by Enjoy Records, which was an imprint of Universal, but that ongoing friction with labels. It suggests the industry just didn't quite know where to put him, genre-wise.
So Redemption Son becomes a sleeper hit, but the real critical peak is next, right? Our Shadows Will Remain in 2004.
Oh, absolutely. This album was a massive undertaking, recorded all over New Orleans, New York, London, Prague. And it featured these huge, lush string arrangements from the City of Prague Philharmonic.
Prague Philharmonic. Okay, so this sounds like a big budget, serious artistic statement.
Absolutely was. And this is where, if you're tracking the music landscape, you get this real aha moment. The critical praise for Our Shadows Will Remain was just overwhelming.
Like what?
AllMusic gave it 4.5 stars. Entertainment Weekly gave it an A grade. The Guardian called him a genuine mad genius.
A mad genius, okay.
But the absolute peak was Rolling Stone. Critic Chris Rubin named Our Shadows Will Remain the #1 album of 2004 in their year-end critics picks.
Number one? #1 album of the year, according to a major Rolling Stone critic. You'd assume that means huge sales, radio play.
You would think. But here's the paradox. His UK label, 14th Floor Records, put out 4 singles from the album Can't Exist, even though Devil's Broom.
Yeah.
None of them charted. Not a single one hit the UK singles chart.
Wait, #1 album pick, huge production, string sections, and 0 chart singles. How does that even happen?
It's kind of the perfect summary of his career puzzle, isn't it? Critics absolutely adored the depth, the musical range, that raw emotion. But the charts, especially back then, needed something predictable, something that fit neatly into a radio format.
And Arthur's music was just too varied, too hard to pin down.
Exactly. He could go from quiet folk to distorted rock in the same song sometimes. That brilliance, that unpredictability that critics loved actually made him difficult for the mainstream machine to market effectively. He was a critic's darling, but tough to sell to the masses.
Still, the output didn't slow down. He released a companion EP, too.
Right. And the thieves are gone. Just collecting more tracks from those shadow sessions shows you how much quality material he was generating.
And his peers clearly respected him. He toured with some big names around then.
Definitely. Toured with REM in Europe in 2004, Tracy Chapman in the U.S. in 2003. And that respect led to some significant charity work in 2006.
Ah, the In the Sun cover.
That's the one. Michael Stipe from REM and Chris Martin from Coldplay covered his song In the Sun for a Hurricane Katrina Relief EP.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was a complex project. The EP had 6 different versions of the song. One featured Arthur singing along with Stipe. There was even a remix by Justin Timberlake, weirdly enough, only on iTunes.
A Justin Timberlake remix. Okay, that's unexpected.
Right. And beyond that, he also gave a song, A River Blue, to a project supporting youth in northern Uganda through arts festivals. So his influence was definitely spreading, even if it wasn't always topping the charts.
Okay, so given all those struggles getting dropped by EMI, having these critically lauded singles just not chart, kind of makes sense that he'd want more control, right? More independence.
Absolutely. This feels like the next logical step in that story of radical independence we've been tracing.
So in 2006, he does what? Starts his own label.
Exactly. He launches Lonely Astronaut Records. He set it up with his professional partner, Lauren Patinot. And this wasn't just, putting his name on something. It seems like it was a real move to build a structure that could actually protect his unique creative flow from that industry interference he'd experienced.
Right, taking control of the means of production, basically.
Pretty much. And it immediately marked a new phase. His fifth album, Nuclear Daydream, which he recorded in Berlin and LA, was the very first release on Lonely Astronaut later that year, 2006.
And this is also when he brings in a proper backing band.
Yes, crucially. He introduces the Lonely Astronauts, the band.
How did that change things? He'd been mostly solo or using session players before, right?
Yeah, a lot of his earlier stuff was more introspective, maybe sparser. Bringing in a dedicated band, Craig Jarrett Johnson, Jennifer Turner, Sybil Buck, Greg Weisserek, let him really lean into a bigger, more unified rock sound. He shifts from being the solo experimenter to more of a band leader.
And with his own label and a band, the productivity just went nuts.
Into hyperdrive is more like it. The sources say the Lonely Astronauts tracked an absolutely staggering number of songs in late 2006, possibly as many as 80 songs.
80 songs! In one period, how is that even possible? Did quality suffer?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? 16 of those 80 tracks ended up on the next album, Let's Just Be, which came out in 2007. And the sources definitely suggest that maybe the pace did affect the quality control.
What did the critics say?
He got a pretty lukewarm reception. Pitchfork was quite critical, calling it unfocused and sloppy. They basically said it sounded like it was thrown together in jam sessions without a clear direction.
Ouch. So that drive for independence and sheer volume maybe backfired a bit on that one?
It seems like it, in that specific instance. The artistic freedom might have overridden the need for perhaps a bit more editing or focus.
So how did he react to that criticism? Did he slow down?
Not even slightly. He basically doubled down on the output. In 2008, he just unleashed this flood of music, 4 EPs in 4 months.
4 EPs in 4 months? Wow.
Yeah. Could We Survive, Crazy Rain, Vagabond Skies, Foreign Girls. And his quote about it is really telling. He said he had so much music piled up, like strange animals in a cosmic cage begging for release. I had to let some of them go. He saw his own creativity as this overwhelming force.
Like he couldn't not release it.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
Thankfully, his next full album with the Lonely Astronauts, Temporary People, also 2008, seemed to get things back on track critically.
Yeah. How was that received?
More warmly. The Times Online liked it, said it had that loose rocking swagger and country melancholy of early 1970s Stones. So maybe he found a better balance there between that band energy and his own style.
And this period is also when he really starts getting involved in those big collaborations, the supergroups.
Exactly. This really cements his reputation as a musician other respected artists wanted to work with. In 2010, you get Fistful of Mercy.
Right, that's the trio with Ben Harper and Donnie Harrison, George Harrison's son.
That's the one. Ben Harper and Donnie Harrison, incredible talents. Their album, As I Call You Down, was really focused on harmonies, more of a folk rock thing. Showed he could work well in that kind of shared acoustic space.
And he didn't stop there, did he? There was another big one soon after.
Nope. 2 years later, 2012, comes RNDM. That was his project with Jeff Amenna from Pearl Jam.
Jeff Amenna. Okay, so musically quite different from Fistful of Mercy, more rock.
Definitely. RNDM was much more in that raw, kind of Pearl Jam-influenced indie rock vein. It shows his versatility again. But even while doing these huge collabs, he's still putting out solo stuff, the Graduation Ceremony in 2011, and then the massive double album Redemption City in 2012.
Just relentless. And then he tries a new funding model, too.
Yeah, another sign of adapting and seeking independence. In 2013, for the album The Ballad of Boogie Christ, he turned to pledge music, crowdfunding.
What was his thinking there? Just needing the funds?
Partly, but he framed it more philosophically. He talked about how tough it is to fund artistic work unless you either get huge or get lots of sync licenses.
Yeah.
He saw crowdfunding, direct fan funding, as an optimistic way forward.
How so?
He said it allowed fans to become a more vital part in the process of artists creating their diamonds. So again, it's about cutting out the middleman, that traditional industry structure, and going straight to the audience for support, building his own ecosystem. Okay, we absolutely have to spend some serious time on his visual art. Because for Arthur, it's not a side project, it's completely central to who he is as an artist.
Right. We mentioned the Grammy nomination for the Vacancy EP cover early on, but it goes much deeper than that.
Oh, way deeper. He's an acclaimed painter and designer. His art is on the cover of basically his entire discography. It sets the visual tone for the music inside.
And he really invested in the physical product too, didn't he? Like with Our Shadows Will Remain.
Absolutely. That package was incredible. It had this special die-cut outer sleeve, and inside, a 36-page booklet filled entirely with his original artwork. He was making the physical object a piece of art in itself, something tangible for the listener to connect with beyond just the music.
And didn't he take it even further, like opening an actual gallery?
He did. This is pretty extraordinary. In 2007, he opened a physical brick-and-mortar gallery space in Brooklyn, in the DMBO neighborhood, and he called it the Museum of Modern Arthur Momar.
Momar, wow, that's ambitious. A whole museum dedicated to his own work.
It really is. Think about the commitment that takes, financially, administratively, especially in DMBO back then. It was a rapidly gentrifying, expensive area.
So how long did it last?
Sadly, the physical space didn't last that long. The sources say it closed in 2008 due to an eviction. But just the act of trying to create a physical gallery solely for his own multidisciplinary art, it says so much about his artistic vision and how integrated he saw his different creative outlets.
Did the art stop when the gallery closed?
No, not at all. It just shifted online. Momar became an online gallery, so the visual work continued to be showcased. And even before Momar, in 2006, he put out this big 110-page book of his art called We Almost Made It.
A book, too?
Yeah, and it came with an instrumental CD called The Invisible Parade. So he's explicitly linking the visual and the auditory, creating music to go with the art and art to go with the music. It's all one big creative project for him.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit to his live performances, that famous one-man band setup. How does he achieve that huge sound all by himself?
This is where that early ambition, maybe that Jaco Pastorius influence, comes back, but through technology. His solo shows are not just a guy with an acoustic guitar. They're these really dense, layered soundscapes he builds live.
Using looping, right?
Yes, but not just any looping. He uses multiple distortion effects and, crucially, sophisticated looping techniques. It's how one person can sound like a whole band, or even an orchestra sometimes.
So what's the tech behind it? Is it just foot pedals?
It's more complex than that, according to the sources. He relies heavily on rack-mounted units of the Lexicon Jamman.
The Lexicon Jamman. Okay, what's special about that?
Well, the Jamman was one of the original high-fidelity professional digital looping systems. Using multiple rack units lets him record much longer loops, maintain audio quality, and have loops running independently, asynchronously.
Ah, so it's not just simple repeating phrases. He can build complex textures.
Exactly. He can stack multiple layers, vocals, guitar parts, percussive sounds he makes on the guitar, and have them weave in and out. It avoids that rigid sound you sometimes get with simpler loop pedals. It allows for that experimental, sometimes chaotic, but always dense and emotional sound he's known for live.
And he runs some nice guitars through that setup, too.
Oh yeah, high-end stuff. His main acoustic is apparently an Irish Loudon 012C. He also uses a Garrison, a custom Godin Kingpin, a Gibson ES335, a vintage Fender Strat. Lots of different voices going into those loops and effects.
And there's another unique thing about his live shows, isn't there? Something about recordings.
Yes. This ties back to that direct fan connection idea. He records his shows live, straight from the soundboard.
And then
immediately after the show, you can buy a copy of that night's performance, usually burned onto CDRs, right there at the merch table.
wow, instant live album.
Pretty much. It makes every single show a unique artifact that the audience can take home straight away. It's brilliant, really. Immediate gratification for the fans.
Okay, moving towards his later albums, there seems to be a focus on themes, tributes, and personal history.
Definitely. After Lou Reed passed away, and remember, Reed was at that crucial early audition Arthur released Lou. The Songs of Lou Reed in 2014 felt like a very personal tribute.
And then Days of Surrender in 2015. That sounds like a return to solo work.
It was. Very much a solo effort again, recorded mostly by himself in his Brooklyn studio. Played almost everything, except for drums by Merritt Jacob. It's like these cycles he goes through: intense collaboration, then intense solitary creation.
And the story behind the Family album in 2016 is pretty wild, isn't it? Involving a piano and a hurricane.
It really is remarkable. He wrote that entire album on one specific instrument,
Mm,
an old Steinway Vertigram piano from the early 1900s.
okay.
She had this piano in his studio in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Hurricane Sandy hits, floods the place. And he manages to save the piano by getting it up onto cinder blocks.
Wow.
So this century-old piano survives the flood. And it becomes the heart of the next album. The album The Family, which came out back on Real World Records, is described as mostly fiction, but it's clearly a meditation on family, resilience, survival. Themes deeply tied to that piano story.
Incredible, tying life events directly into the art again.
Always. And then rounding out that period, another big collaboration, Arthur Buck in 2018, teaming up with Peter Bucks from REM.
Peter Buck, okay. Another major name.
Yep. And following that, he put out another solo album, Comeback World, in 2019, releasing it on his own Moon Age Rebel label, still using that independent framework he'd built.
Yeah.
So this brings us into the most recent and arguably the most complex and challenging phase of his career that our sources cover. This is where that fierce artistic independence really seems to collide with the wider cultural landscape.
And a key part of this was his podcast, right? Come to Where I'm From.
Yes, launched in 2019, named after his 2000 album, is produced by Ehud Lazen, and it wasn't just about music, it was this really expansive, long-form interview and conversation show.
What kind of topics did they cover?
Everything, really. The creative process, sure, but also health, fitness, psychology, diet, spirituality, poetry, current events. Very wide-ranging.
But the striking thing was his level of personal honesty on it.
Extraordinary level of self-disclosure. He was incredibly candid on the podcast. It became this platform for really raw personal exploration. He talked openly about his struggles with drugs, alcohol addiction.
And even specific mental health diagnoses.
Yes. The sources mention him discussing his experiences with MPD, narcissistic personality disorder, and also PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Wow. For an artist already known for emotional lyrics, that's taking vulnerability to a whole new level using that podcast medium.
Absolutely. It was like a direct, unfiltered look into some really deep parts of his personal journey. The last episode, number 130, went up in July 2021. That kind of marked the end of that specific public phase of intense self-examination.
And around this time, he was also focusing on other aspects of his life. Wellness, family.
Yeah, the sources note he was championing fitness, wellness, homeopathic approaches. He identifies as Christian. And personally, he and his girlfriend, Anna Sophia, welcomed a daughter, Alessia, in July 2021 as well.
Okay. Now, we need to address the more contentious material that the sources cover from this period. And just to be clear for everyone listening, our role here is just to report impartially on what the sources say happened regarding his stated beliefs and the professional repercussions. We're not endorsing any viewpoint, just relaying the information.
Absolutely. Strict impartiality. So the sources state that Arthur began publicly commenting on his views regarding COVID-19 around April 2020, specifically expressing strong opposition to the COVID-19 vaccine.
And this public stance had consequences for his career.
Very significant consequences, yes. According to the sources, in 2021, there was this almost complete breakdown of his professional support system. His manager, his booking agent, and his record label all cut ties with him.
All three. Manager, agent, label. That's huge.
It's profound. It's a really stark example of an artist's publicly stated personal views leading to a near-total collapse of their established career infrastructure.
And it affected his collaborations, too. Didn't something happen with the Peter Buck project?
Yes, that's a key detail. The sources specifically mentioned that New West Records decided not to release an album he had already recorded with Peter Buck. This was after their previous successful Arthur Buck album.
Wow. So finished work got shelved because of the controversy around his views?
That seems to be the implication, yes.
Yeah.
It really shows the scale of the professional fallout.
Did Arthur change his stance or back down after this happened?
Quite the opposite, it seems. He doubled down. In August 2021, he released a song called Stop the Shot.
And the lyrics were quite direct.
Very direct. The
Yeah.
sources quote lines like, "So take me uptown, baby. I don't want to make a fuss. And keep your graphene oxide out of me. Baby, I don't want to rust." And the song apparently repeats the line, "We will overcome what those fools have done."
Okay. So very clear statements in the music itself.
Unmistakable. And this alignment extended into the political realm as well. The sources note he performed at a campaign rally for the independent presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in December 2023.
RFK Jr., okay.
So it confirms this continued public commitment to expressing these specific viewpoints, regardless of the professional cost, regardless of losing that traditional support system. It's worth remembering, he'd often tried to work outside of Anyway with his own labels and crowdfunding. Hashtag to hashtag outro.
Well, that was certainly a journey, a really complex, sometimes dizzying path we've traced today for Joseph Arthur. We started with him as this aspiring bass player in Ohio, dreaming of Jaco Pastorius. We saw that pivotal discovery by Peter Gabriel, watched him become this critically celebrated, Grammy-nominated artist working across music and visual art.
Yeah, and we saw his knack for attracting these incredible collaborators, Ben Harper, Donnie Harrison, Jeff Ament, Peter Buck.
And alongside that, this unwavering commitment to doing things his own way, launching Lonely Astronaut Records, those floods of EPs, the amazing live looping with the Lexicon Jam Man, that radical independence.
And that independence really feels like the core tension, doesn't it? The sources show this constant push-pull. On one side, you have this almost unbelievable artistic output, technical innovation like the instant live CDs. And on the other side, this deep willingness to expose himself, talking about addiction, MPD, PTSD on his podcast, and ultimately to take very public, very high-stakes stances on controversial social and political issues, no matter what it cost him professionally.
Yeah, it's like his entire career became this experiment in pursuing creative honesty above all else. He built his own platforms like the label, partly to escape industry constraints.
And ironically, maybe that very independence ultimately gave him the freedom to voice opinions that led to the collapse of whatever external support he still had. It's quite the paradox.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway? What should you, the listener, be thinking about after hearing all this?
Well, here's a final thought to chew on, maybe. We live in this age of intense digital connection, constant information, where artists are maybe more accountable or at least more vulnerable than ever. What happens when an artist's deep-seated commitment to their personal truth or their political viewpoint clashes directly with the industry, the money, the infrastructure that allows them to make a living, especially for someone like Arthur, who actively sought independence to gain creative freedom? Where do the limits of that freedom lie when your views become really controversial, really politically charged? What's the ultimate price you pay for that kind of absolute artistic and personal autonomy?
A lot to think about there. It's a tension that Joseph Arthur's career really forces us all to confront.